Hello, and welcome to our next presentation in the Signal Media Innovation Showcase series. I'm George Seifers, Editor-in-Chief of Signal Magazine. We hope you've all enjoyed the TechNet Cyber Conference so far and the great sessions that we're providing. Our next guest will be Andrew Scherer and Lynette Herbst with ServiceNow. We look forward to their presentation on a structured approach to DevSecOps transformation.
All right, cool. All right. Thank you, George. Everyone can hear me? All right. Thanks, everybody. All right, we're gonna jump in. We've got a lot of information and not a lot of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a couple quick intros, then we're going to do a little bit of housekeeping, and then jump in. So from an intro perspective, my name's Andrew Scherer. Back in the back of the room there is Lynette Herbst. We're both with ServiceNow, and between the both of us, we support the entire DoD and Intel organizations for a myriad of different products, one of them being our SPM product that deals a lot with DevSecOps. So excited to be here, excited to walk you through this. Some quick housekeeping. ServiceNow, we are right over there because we're a little worried that we've got a lot of information, not a lot of time. And so if we get to the end and we haven't gotten to questions yet, Lynette and I are going to stick around, come talk to us, or just swing by the booth. We're happy to have conversations. A lot of people over there all want to talk to you. So, and then finally, this deck that we're going to show, it's a little dense. It's got a lot of words, and that is by design. This topic is much more of a macro level conversation, right? It's not as micro where here are some tool sets that you can use to do this. It's much more of an academic conversation of how do we move from today to a fully developed DevSecOps environment. And again, that's going to require conversations that are a little bit more academic. So the idea was that when you download the deck, if you're scanned in and you download the deck, it's going to read a little bit more like a white paper. We're not going to go through every single word on it, but we wanted to make sure as a takeaway you had a reference point. All right? All right, with that, we're going to get cooking. Okay, now, I've been lucky enough to get to present to TechNet Cyber several years, and I've never actually put the problem statement on the board. But I think it's important this time because it's a little bit unique, right? Again, because it's such a macro conversation, right? So if you look at the last part, it's saying, how should an organization structure their transformation process, right? What is the framework by which they get from today to a fully implemented DevSecOps? That, again, is going to be more macro level, and that's why I wanted to show the problem statement and tell you this is what we're answering. Okay, so the first thing that we want to talk about is the what. What is DevSecOps from a DoD perspective? So when the Department of Defense talks about DevSecOps, these are what they're looking to do, right? And it's all for I'm going to go to the end of the book, it's all because they need operational edge, right? So DevSecOps think of as speed, flexibility, security, and people, all for the process of making sure that we can develop software faster, embed security in the beginning of it, do some automation in coding, and be able to collaborate across teams. This is what the DoD wants to do. If you go on the DoD websites, this is exactly what they're going to talk about from a DevSecOps perspective. Now, for me, it's always important to talk about not just the what, but the why. So why does the DoD want to have more of a DevSecOps environment as opposed to traditional software management and software development? And I think the best way to think about this is the juxtaposition to what traditional software development is, right? Traditional software development is slow, it's linear, right? It's waterfall. You complete task one. Before you do task two, you complete task two. Task three, it cascades down, hence the term waterfall. Well, that is super, super slow. Security is not embedded into it. Oftentimes, security is bolted on. You'll hear us talk about built-in versus bolted on. And so, threats, the DoD is under threats that evolve daily. And you can't have software that is pushed out in months. You have to have software that it can be pushed out in days. And so for us to be able to react to the ever-evolving threats that are out there, we've got to get better at our DevSecOps. So this is not a tech trend. I want to make sure that we're talking about this, right? I mean, Gen AI we talk about all the time now, right? At ServiceNow, now we're talking about agentic AI, and you're trying to kind of weed through things, what's going to last, what's not going to last. This is going to last for a long, long time. This is not a tech trend. Every single major software company, ServiceNow included, Microsoft, Facebook, Meta, Spotify, they all do DevSecOps like this. They all do software development like this. And the reason is because they have to adapt and they have to move quickly. Their consequences are not as dire as the Department of Defense is. So if they have to move quickly, so do we. So finally, what is DevSecOps supposed to do? It's supposed to clear bottlenecks, it's supposed to modernize workflows, and it's supposed to focus on the outcomes. And we're going to talk about that quite a bit too, this idea of focusing on the outcomes. So what's interesting, I think, is the what and the why are kind of the same thing. The what and the why are still speed, security, collaboration, and mission fit. Okay, so how do we get there from here? So again, I'm not going to go through this slide. Everyone can big sigh of relief. But what we are, because this slide is an aggregate of the next slides that we're going to talk about. So this is the architecture, this is the structure that we believe, that best practices believe, is how you get from day zero to a scale and sustain the transformation so that organizations are using that DevSecOps environment in totality. So we're going to go through each one of these quickly. So the first one is leadership, and I will tell you, if you're curious, this is the most important pillar. We're going to say it first. If it was flipped on its side, this would be the foundation, because without this, everything else is going to fall apart. Without sustained leadership and sustained advocacy to move to DevSecOps, it really just becomes a suggestion, and a suggestion that folks aren't going to follow, because again, you're going to hear this a lot too. Human beings, under pressure, we're going to fall back to what we know, and what we know is more of the traditional software development. And so leadership. Without it, not going to happen. The third bullet I like too, and it is that we're empowering localized team members, right? So it's not just leadership on high. Inside of each organization that is doing software development, we have to have champions that are going to keep pace and keep people deployed and keep people part of our DevSecOps environment. So I'll leave you with this. No leadership, no transition, period. So we have leadership. Now what? Well, it's simple. We need a plan, right? And because moving to DevSecOps does not scale by accident. We've got to have a clear and concise plan that is rigid enough to demand people stay within it, but flexible enough to be able to change, right? And again, this environment that we're in today, we can't go over what that plan's going to be, right? We just don't have enough time. But this is the part where you have to make that plan. And I want to focus on this third bullet again for just a sec. Well, first, we need this Center of Excellence. You have to have it. You have to have leadership that is able to create our governance, create our plan, and it's got to come from up top that they can then send out to organizations below. So a Center of Excellence, and candidly, in everything I do at ServiceNow, our customers that are the most successful have a Center of Excellence, whether it's software management, hardware management, it doesn't matter. They have to have folks that demand its implementation properly and demand that people follow it. But if you look at the third one, this is one that's often overlooked, but super important. And this is this idea of standardizing on a certain amount of tool chains and integrations, right? Without that, you can't have 15 different solutions that do CI/CD pipeline. It's just not going to work. You can't have multiple solutions that are going to integrate that data for dashboarding. It's not going to work. If you have too many choices, what you're actually doing is you're going to localize chaos. You're going to put chaos into the local solutions that they're not going to be able to collaborate across the teams. So from this slide, the two takeaways is one, center of excellence, super, super important. And number two is standardizing on some of these tool chains and integrations. All right, so we've got our leadership, we got our plan. Now what? Well, we got to find something, as the problem statement asked, we got to find something to pilot. We have to find a solution or a process or a product or a project that we can pilot to show our value, right? Now, Lynette and I, when we work with DoD customers, lots of them use different pieces of DevSecOps, right? Some will use some agile planning. Some will embed code, will embed security far left side of the continuum. Some will automate code. But it's very fragmented, and almost nobody is doing it end to end. So what we want to do is we want to select a program that's doing some of it, but really needs us to come in and to kind of fill out the spaces and to allow it to succeed and to succeed quickly, right? Because time is always important. Speed is always important. So how do we do that? We're going to use something called our maturity models that allow us to go in and assess different levels of continuity of where folks are inside of that DevSecOps continuum, right? And so this is not boil the ocean. This is pick one or two solutions, pick one or two programs, have a team parachute in, help them show leadership, the value, and then scale, scale, scale. Okay, so we've got our leadership, we got our plan, we've picked our pilot. Now what? Well, we've got to have this continuous governance and continuous improvement. Continuous improvement. Continuous improvement. That is the key of DevSecOps, and it's something that comes in this part of the pillars, right? In the fourth pillar. DevSecOps is revolutionary because it focuses on outcome. It doesn't focus on the process. It focuses on the outcome. And so here where we want to do is we want to really focus on these KPIs and OKRs in the beginning of a solution, right? And then go into some real-time monitoring. Those are the two things I want to talk about and double click on. And this is, I haven't mentioned ServiceNow yet, but this is really where ServiceNow, we play in all the different ones, but really where we're going to shine is on this slide. And it's this ability to track KPIs and OKRs, help you define them, help you put them down on paper so that when the project is done, we can go back and see, are we doing what we thought we would do? Did the solution cause the results that we wanted it to do, right? But even bigger than that is this real-time monitoring. You cannot manage what you cannot see. You have to be able to see things in real time. You have to be able to say what projects are over budget, which projects are under budget, which projects are absolutely failing because there's no way they're going to be completed in time, right? Because then you can go in and you can adjust. Continuous improvement. And you cannot do continuous improvement if everything you're doing is post-mortem. If post-mortem you go back and say, boy, that problem turned into a big one, not going to work. You've got to take small problems, you've got to change, you have to be flexible because small problems become big problems. They don't if you can monitor in real time and you can make changes in real time. So finally, I know there's going to be clapping. This is the last pillar. This is on scale and sustaining, right? Picking the right product and doing all this thing, that's the easy part. The hard part is sustainment. The hard part is saying we're moving away from traditional solutioning where you feel comfortable. We're moving away from waterfall where you feel comfortable, and we're demanding that you go into DevOps. Right? And success is really this sustained momentum. And you have to be able to do things under pressure. And that's what DevSecOps builds. It gives the ability under pressure with time and with what works, with momentum. You have to be able to do things under pressure. There's a great Mike Tyson quote. And Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face, right? And so our developers are going to, metaphorically, get punched in the face a lot, right? They're going to get punched in the face by leadership. They're going to get punched in the face by changing budgets. They're going to get punched in the face by macro events that are going to happen on a geopolitical side that is going to cause them to have to switch solutions. So you have to have a framework that is rigid enough to demand everyone stay within it, and flexible enough to be able to absorb those punches. We don't want to avoid them. They're unavoidable. So we want to make sure that we have rigidity to demand people stick with DevSecOps and flexibility to support any problems that come up during the solution, right? So this is our last thing, and I haven't read one slide. I'm going to read this quote at the end here. Scaling DevSecOps required repeatable practices, embedded security, and this is the most important one, a culture that embraces continuous improvement. That's the key. Okay, Lynette, come on up. We only have a couple minutes. We've got 2 more slides, so hang in there with us, and then any questions, come talk to us.
Thank you, Andy. He's a bit of a tough act to follow and much taller than me, too, I see. So everything that Andy just talked about across the 5 pillars, seeing that in action from a DevOps perspective. So across the top, probably familiar to most of you, seeing that CI/CD pipeline. And the idea here is transparency and visibility across that entire pipeline. So whether we're using integration with tools that you already have, or we're using pieces of ServiceNow, it gives you a full visibility across the board in that pipeline. So when we have security compliance, compliance checks along the way, and that governance through the entire process, you have that visibility. We planned it, now we developed it, and you're watching it step through that entire pipeline. You're visualizing all the work that's being done. So any code that's been submitted, you're able to see that as well. Any test results from automated testing tools, being able to see those results, how they came in. And then release and change management, of course. Again, I can't stress it enough to have that security, compliance, and governance across the board when we talk about DevSecOps process. And finally, just wanted to share with you where ServiceNow plays in this space, right? So we have the 5 pillars that Andy explained down the left-hand side. So how do we look at ServiceNow as a means to provide that transparency, visibility, and monitoring that Andy talked about? But also strategic planning, things like that, getting our roadmaps together, having that visibility. Most of you probably do that. You have roadmaps, you have OKRs, you have KPIs. How do we get them in one place so we can show that alignment to our investments that we're making and making sure that we're hitting those mission goals? Enterprise architecture as well, so looking to prioritize to reduce technical debt, I'm going to make it, to reduce technical debt, right? So having that visibility as well as operations management, service management, things of that nature. So thank you for listening. Andy's going to come back for one more slide, but please come to the booth. We can explain all this and how it can help you guys move forward. Thanks.
Thanks. Yeah, we're done. I just want to put this slide up as the last slide. It's the first slide we had. Thanks, Lynette. She had the hard part because she didn't know how much time she was going to have. So this is it. Come see us. I think we're right at time. Is that right, George? We got about a minute left. So if you have, our booth number is what, Barb? 3080 is our booth number. So come by and see us. So with that, I thank you. Come up, chit chat, and I hope you have a great rest of TechNet Cyber.
Andy and Lynette, thank you so much for that presentation. Thank you all for being here. Our next session will be at 12:10 on AI-enabled cybersecurity.